Good morning, magandang umaga po. A viewer asked me if I have changed my mind about going to the Philippines and spending some time for retirement. He asked this question because of the pandemic and because of the things that are going on, not just the pandemic, but the things that are going on in the Philippines. Am I still going to be spending time in the Philippines? That is the question that we are going to address. Stay with me. When I first decided to spend some time for retirement in the Philippines, it was before the pandemic. And this was not an issue at the time. Pandemic never existed. And now we have this fiasco going on how to resolve this problem we have with the pandemic. Viruses, vaccination, lockdown, face mask, face shield. All these things are now becoming an issue. And for many people, what used to be a beautiful Philippine island is no longer beautiful for them. So the question is, should you still stay and spend time in the Philippines? That's a question. Here's my answer. And I'm going to start this by showing you a picture that's going to tell you what my answer is going to be. Let's take a look at this picture. Do you see the face of a woman? Here's the eyebrow, the eyes, the nose, the lips, and here's the face. Okay, here's the face. Or do you see a plant with the leaves, and this is a flower bud, leaf, and I guess this is a flower. How do you see it? One person may see this as a face of a woman, whereas another person could look at this as a plant with flowers, bud, and leaves. Let's look at another one. Immediately here, I saw the face of a woman. See, this is the face right here, okay, with the eyes, the nose, and the lips. That's how I see it. Whereas other people could look at this as the tree and three birds. Okay, and there's like little babies in there, right? So, how you see things or how you perceive things could be completely different from how other people may perceive things. Let's look at another one. Look at that. Is this an ocean? See, this is an ocean, clouds, and there's a tree. Or do you see this as two women facing each other? That's one face, okay, and another face, okay, with the eyes, nose, mouth, eyes, eyebrows, nose, mouth. So one person could look at one thing completely differently from the other. Now, that is my point. Perception is in the eyes of the beholder. Now, as you can see, you could look at something in a different way. Whereas you're looking at one situation one way, another person could be looking at it in another way. As I mentioned, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. You cannot judge the book by its cover. When I first decided I'm going to spend some time in the Philippines for retirement, it was before the pandemic. That was a good decision at the time. Now, is it now a bad decision given the events? My answer will be, I don't know. Sometimes you have to wait and let things percolate. Give it some maturity time. Is what's going on in the Philippines now a difference in culture? In values? Is Philippines now become a dictatorial government? We just don't know. The thing is this, I was a firm supporter of President Duterte, and I still am. I still am. But it is gradually changing, or I should say, it may be gradually changing. Why is that? Several things happened in a very short period of time. One is when he said, I am going to force everyone to get a vaccine, that not exactly in those language, in those terms, but he said, I'm going to jail anyone who refuses to take the vaccine. Although vaccine is good, in fact, I had a vaccine. I had 2 shots of Pfizer. I did it. Why? Because I believe in it. Do I believe 100%? Not in this particular vaccine, because this vaccine is just experimental at this point. It may work, it may not work. It may have long-term issues, it may not. But I had to weigh between the good and the evil. I believe right now the good far outweighs the evil. And what is the evil? Well, I'm still alive, so in terms of short-term effect, I'm still good. Don't feel anything. But will I die 5-10 years from now? The people say, some of these conspiracy theorists say, oh, it will change your DNA, and oh, they will put a chip in your shoulder and all that. I don't believe in that, first of all. And is that going to be a long-term effect? Maybe yes, maybe no. If it does, let's say I die 10 years from now. Well, I'm already 70 years old. But for the younger people who might believe those conspiracy theories, you have to give them the liberty to decide for themselves, because you yourself will not know what the long-term impact would be. They may be right. They may be partially right. So these are things that you have to consider. But when he said he will force everyone to get the vaccine, I do not agree with that. So is this becoming dictatorial? Now, let's take a look at what's happening with these pronouncements by IATF. He gives 100% support, and initially I would say I agree with that, because when you have people working for you, you have to give them support. You cannot tell them you're responsible for this, and then they do it, and then you counter and say, nah, I'm going to override that decision. I don't agree with that either. But there's one thing I disagree with. The IATF issues pronouncement in a dictatorial way. Why do I say this? For example, Cebu was presenting evidence. Cebu was inviting them, and in fact, they accepted the invitation. Did they go to Cebu to find out what's going on in Cebu? No, they did not. What did they do instead? They came up with another pronouncement. From now on, all flights going to Cebu will now be coming to Manila. It's like fighting. It's like a power play. It's like, hey, we are the authority here. I don't care what you say. We're going to do what we say should be done. And that I do not agree with. Now, if they took the time to go out there, try to understand it and say, gee, I agree with that, except take a look at this. Or they may say, oh, I agree with that. Yeah, we should go ahead and implement this. Then decision is being made in a cohesive way, but not in a dictatorial way. But when the pronouncements, when the decisions are being made in the dictatorial way, I don't like it. I don't like it. The other thing too is the termination of Dr. Lerache. Shortly after he disagreed with the higher up, what did they do? They silenced her by moving her to another department and now making someone else in charge of communications. I like Dr. Lerache because she told the truth, at least what she believed to be the truth is. And that's good. That's democracy. That's how it should be done. But what did they do? They got rid of her. I don't like that. I don't like that. If that will continue to be the way it is, pronouncement against jailing people who don't accept the vaccination and things like that. I don't like it, and I will say, no, I will terminate my plan. But don't jump the gun right away, because the government also has some right. Okay, they also know, oh, I forgot about the other one. The other thing is when Duterte said he is going to refuse to honor the decision of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the supreme decider of things whenever there is a conflict, emergency or not. The Supreme Court will decide if there is true emergency. Nobody can just say, this is an emergency and therefore I am in power. That's dictatorship. Duterte should always listen and follow what the Supreme Court says. After all, that is why we have a Supreme Court. So when he says, no, I will not honor what the Supreme Court decides, or I can't remember if he said Supreme Court or the judiciary, okay, but I take that to mean Supreme Court, you go from lower level to the middle level to the highest law of the land, which is the Supreme Court. He should follow the law. We cannot be a lawless country. That is just my opinion and my belief. And if it continues, obviously my answer will be no. I will terminate my plans to do that. I would recommend to everybody else to do the same thing, of course. But guys, it's too early to say at this point. Knowing Duterte, that's just, sometimes he says things that he doesn't really mean. Sometimes he says things that later he will say he's just joking. But something like this should not be joked upon. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. We may have a different administration in 2022. So, this should not just immediately affect my decision to stay in the country. Philippines, to me, as far as this is concerned, is still a good country to be in. So I will continue with my plan until additional information shows up that says this is no longer the Philippines that I know. All right? So that is the answer to my question. Give it a lot of thought before you make the move. I hear a lot of comments saying, oh gee, I won't go to the Philippines anymore, I will not visit the Philippines anymore, or I give up on the Philippines. It's too early to say. There's a lot of hurt going on, and there's a lot of pain going on with these lockdowns and prohibitions and stuff like that. The other thing too is prohibiting Filipinos who's overseas from coming to the Philippines unless you do this quarantine and that quarantine, which to me is ridiculous, but may be essential. I don't know. There's a lot of conflicting opinions about the wisdom of the face mask, the face shield, the face mask, and this quarantine. But he may be doing the right thing, and I'm not here to judge what the administration is doing, but I just did not like the approach, how it's being done, and determination or the silencing of the person who is not in agreement with what they're saying. Let them speak and let them evaluate, let the people evaluate what's going on. But silencing is not a solution to me. Threatening everybody who does not take the vaccine, imprisonment or arrest is not a solution to me and for me. So that's what I have at this point. So please do share this with other people, your friends or relatives, and good luck with everybody's plans. And again, I will still continue with my plan to stay in the Philippines, and hopefully this thing goes away, and if we no longer have a problem, maybe there's going to be no more misstatements and such. And make it a great day, guys, and God bless. Please do share and subscribe to my channel unless you have already done so. God bless.